All right, hello all. Hopefully everyone is doing good. It's been a while since I've done a solo stream. I feel like I'm going to kind of ramble through this first part, but you know what? That's okay. I'm just a little out of practice. I'm Kels. I am going to be reading like all of this stuff. It's fine. I'm not a voice actor, and I don't think anyone would mistake me for one. So we're back on the end of Chaos Child. I think we're really close to the end, and I will be completely honest. I don't have anything lined up after this, so you can think about what you've got. What you'd like to do, sort of in the back of your mind. The only thing I could come up with is I have Final Fantasy 16. I've just never played it because I keep playing Baldur's Gate 3. So if that's something you want to do, I can actually set this up and we can start it at the end of this, however long this takes. Because it could be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours. I have no idea. So, but yeah, let's finish this up. Let's get into our recap. All right, so the true route starts with Serika's perspective of having dreamed since childhood of being a serial killer, for Takuru and his dad being her accomplice under the observation of the committee, since apparently everything that happened to us is a dream to her. Then we woke up to a regular day of shopping with normal girls until Shibuya triggered a regurgitation response stemming from our supposed accident months ago that took our memories and left us to a self-proclaimed distant relative. We vomited crepes and discussed Chaos Child Syndrome. We went to Hekiho but passed out and went home. Apparently, we live in the timeline where Takuru got vilified by the public for Yui's murder. We went back to Shibuya to investigate what connection it has to our past, and everyone there recognized us. At the club room, we found our pinboard of the killings, and Momose picked us up. Momose told us about some of our past in secret, and then sent us to the evil cult hospital. We went to Mio's hospital room for more answers, but mostly got attitude, as is normal for Mio. Mio eventually told us she'll give us answers if we promise not to go back to Shibuya, and showed us the other girls' comatose older bodies and told us about Wakui. Mio mentioned something about memory altercation, and then she and Shinjo brought us to Takuru's room. Takuru pretended to not recognize us and said we should stay out of this, but requested alone time with us. When we were alone, he dropped the act and got friendly despite us still thinking him a killer. He accepted our cooperation for Nono and Senne's sake, or Nono slash Senne's sake, and we overheard him talk with Mio about gigalomaniac stuff as his powers are gone. The next day, Mio, Shinjo, and Takuru joined us at the school where they let us keep treating Takuru as a murderer. An illusion wall hid Wakui's lab where they sought a cure for Chaos Child Syndrome. Supposedly, injecting Takuru with meds and collecting brainwave data from him can help wake up the other girls from their ideal dreams and cure their Chaos Child Syndrome. Takuru had his best friend to pull him out of the illusions, and now he needs to bring everyone else back. They produced a Rorschach image to broadcast online with special audio of Takuru's supposed message to treat everyone's syndrome. We could do another science adventure game. I do own Steins Gate. I know that I think it's Anonymous Code just came out. We could also look at Chaos Head, which is the prequel game to this. So yeah, anything that you are interested in, just let me know. I just don't necessarily have anything queued up for right after this if we get done early. Also, I found out so Serika's D-Sword is nice and glowy right now, but if you go away from it, it stops glowing, which I thought was a nice little touch. Okay, let's get back into it. There was suddenly a voice behind us. Grr. Miyashiro tensed in the direction of the voice. Oh, that's right, Wakui showed back up. Kunosato stood up and glared. I was the only one who was too off guard to react. I turned my head back over my shoulder. And there was a man standing there. I'd seen him before. How? Hmm? I'm a teacher at Hekiho. Of course I'm here. Oh, stop, Kunosato. Kunosato froze, her hand in her pocket. No sense in talking to him upstairs. There's no getting in or out. I changed your minds to work that way. There was more tension on Kunosato and Miyashiro's faces than I'd ever seen. Yeah, exactly. Sup, fuckers. The man laughed a little as he saw it. And then I realized that this was the man in my visions, and the man in the photo Kunosato had shown me. Shuichi Wakui. Do you need something? You're quite the bold thief, aren't you? You're stealing my data. Hmm. You're the type who loses sight of everything else when she thinks she's in the right. Why not lighten up a little? I heard they hated you at that lab in America. Ugh, you bastard. Oh, don't get mad. It's just something I heard. Anyway, for now, why don't we all sit down? It's tiring standing up. Something felt very wrong. Luckily, I wasn't holding any kind of weapon. He was a thin, gentle-looking scientist type. He didn't seem strong at all. If Miyashiro and Kunosato both leaped on him at the same time, they should be able to hold him down. And I could help a little. If the three of us attacked at once... But they were keeping their distance and acting cautious, as if he was holding a gun. I'm not here to kill you. Don't be so nervous. You, especially Miyashiro. I'm the advisor of the newspaper club. I'd like to think we got along well. Wakui laughed as he talked. For some reason, he sounded like a con artist. Let's sit down, Onoe. When he heard that, he smiled for some reason. It was a nasty smile, like he was enjoying something. You're calling her Onoe now, huh? What? Do you know me? Stop it. Do what he says. Please. Please. Fine. There we go. The Gigalomaniac experiments have allowed me to create the ultimate psychic weapon. Behold, the D-gun. I sat down in a nearby chair. Kunosato sat too. She seemed like she was trying to hold back her anger even more than usual. Luckily, smiled in surprise as he looked at the monitor Kunosato had been working at. I see. So you'll make their brain waves match Miyashiro's, huh? My, it's quite well done. It's such a shame, Kunosato. You're sure you don't want to come back to the committee? Shut up. She just barely stopped herself from getting out of her chair. I've never been part of the committee. You stole my research data and used it for your experiments. Her voice was shaking. She seemed genuinely furious. That's strange. I'm told you were quite enthusiastic at first. You said it was very good data. And who cares how many brain-damaged children die if it's for the good of science? You should have been happy, I think. I said, shut up. She finally stood up, her eyes wide with rage. Beat him to death. Go, Mio, go. But the next moment... Huh? Kunosato! She was suddenly slammed back into the wall. It was as if she was thrown by some invisible force. What was that? So, does he have the telekinesis that we've been noticing this whole time? Huh? I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my temples. My hands shot up to my head. It was the same pain as when I'd passed out after first coming here. That face does look very punchable. I will say, like, Wakui's got a really good, like, I'm your friend face and a very good, like, you suck and I want to punch you face. And I will give massive kudos to the artists for making that happen. My fingers tensed up and my nails dug into my forehead. Kunosato, don't you think it's about time you admitted it? No matter what you do, you won't be able to damage the committee. Huh. You took the data from America and vanished, and then showed up here as a scientist. Of course, I'm sure your intent was to look for us, but even if you didn't notice me when I was walking the halls in broad daylight, you're never going to get anywhere. As the pain blurred my vision, I heard the sound of gritting teeth. Kunosato was looking at Wakui with an incredible fury. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't making fun of you. I actually have a very high regard for you. This image, for example, is quite well made. Go ahead and show it to the patients. Huh? What? Is it that surprising? Oh, I get it. You think I'm from the same group as Sakuma, the one that still hasn't given up on Gigalomaniac research. I see. That would explain why you view me as an enemy. Wakui kept laughing. I didn't know what was funny. Am I wrong? I can't see it. But you're a gigalomaniac too, right? Kunosato pointed to the empty space in front of Wakui's hand. That's got nothing to do with this. I'm just a man who's loyal to the committee. And the committee's orders are to clean up all the irregularities that resulted from the incident 6 years ago. You see? I want the same thing you do. So, I have no reason to interfere with you. Do you understand? He laughed. To tell you the truth, at first I had the same hopes as Sakuma after he left us. The same hopes for you, Takuru Miyashiro. Huh? The appearance of Chaos Child Syndrome in Shibuya was one such irregularity, as was the appearance of the psychics from among the patients. But when what appeared to be a real gigalomaniac appeared from among the failures, I was astonished. So I kept watching you, independently of Sakuma. The higher-ups were skeptical, though. It was difficult to persuade them to postpone the big cleanup of Shibuya. I'm wondering if this isn't, completely after the first arc. Because if Takuru wished for us to be a normal girl, then yeah, in theory, we would lose our powers entirely at that point. And we're not hearing anyone's thoughts, so I think we did lose our powers entirely, at least for now. It's my thought, at least. Wakui seemed to be enjoying this, but Miyashiro was glaring back at him fiercely. For my part, my headache was getting unbearably bad. Psychics, gigalomaniacs, Sakuma. Each time I heard a word, my head started to throb. Something was getting stuck in my memories. Something was intertwining with my feelings. But unfortunately, you abandoned your powers. And then, not only that, you recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome. The reason I'd used to persuade the higher-ups was gone, and my reputation was ruined. They got quite angry, you see. My ranking was lowered. I've got no money and no connections, so it wasn't easy to get this far, but... Oh, now's not the time for complaining, is it? Anyway, this city and Chaos Child Syndrome are now of no value to us. In fact, we could be in a lot of trouble if anyone like Sakuma starts up another strange research project. So, if you want to use that image to get rid of the syndrome patients, that would make us very happy. I assume that's supposed to be Wakui and not Sakuma, but someone said as he spread his arms wide. Yeah, good old silver ocularization. Miyashiro, Kunosato, do you understand? So don't look upset, you two. Right now we're comrades. We all want the same thing. Let me ask you again, Kunosato. You're sure you don't want to join us in our research? I refuse. There was no doubt in her voice, only black anger. But Wakui was as unmoved as ever. That's so strange. I fail to understand it. Why does someone like you get so obsessed with revenge? Can't you look at the bigger picture? The position and power to do whatever you want as a researcher. And the money, too. It's all yours for the taking. And it's not just for your own personal benefit. It's to make the next world a better one. Didn't you hear me? I refuse. Come on, Kunosato, didn't you hear me? We're comrades. You especially. I've been very sternly told not to kill. The look in his eyes changed for a moment. I felt a shiver go down my spine and took my hands off my aching head to grab the sides of the chair I was sitting in. Yeah. Okay, what I want, as a researcher, is to destroy the committee. There we go. If I didn't, it felt like I would fall over. A stupid threat. Kunosato, however, was unmoved. Her voice was strong. Just listening to it made it feel like the terror was fading away. The position to do whatever I want? Power? How stupid. No matter how great they are, I'm sick of getting my power from someone else. It's not worth a cent. Power is something that's only valuable if you gain it yourself. Even if you're not sure what the right path is, believing in the answer and going forward is what makes you human. The grin vanished from his face. There was a wickedness in his voice that even I could sense. Was that how you originally thought? Or were you influenced by someone? I couldn't say. I felt like Kunosato looked at Miyashiro for a moment. How unfortunate. Well, feel free to continue convincing yourself you've gotten one up on us while you dance to the tune we play. Oh. Huh? Suddenly, Kunosato disappeared without a sound. How? She was just here. I quickly looked around, but she was nowhere to be seen. You! Don't move, Miyashiro. I'm in a bit of a bad mood right now. Move, and I'll stab you. Oh, that's right. You can't even see it now, can you? This. Oh shit, but we can see it. Also, that is... Why did the villain get the fucking coolest one? Huh? What? There was something creepy wrapped around Bakui's hand. It was like a huge pair of scissors, or no, like a creature with thorn-covered tentacles bearing its fangs at us. And it appeared from nowhere, the same way that Kunosato had vanished. Sheesh, I don't understand you either. How could you throw away your power? I know, the villains always get the cool stuff. It's not fair. You, I'm told it's okay to kill. So, listen carefully. Miyashiro seemed to be judging his distance from Wakui. His legs were shaking a little, but he didn't take a single step back. I felt like I was going crazy from the headaches and all the strange things that were happening. I told you I've been watching you a long time, didn't I? That was actually because I thought there was a more interesting experiment I could do. You like urban legends, so you must have heard of the One World Order. A unified world government. That's right. Watching you, I thought that perhaps Shibuya could be a test ground for that. The aging process caused by Chaos Child Syndrome is actually just a byproduct of brain activity. The more interesting facet is the fact that the patients don't notice it. During the earthquake, the people struck by the light created an escape from reality as a source of relief from the stress. They started to live in a different world and created for themselves an ideal Shibuya via delusion synchro. And that's a miniaturized version of the One World Order I envision. Huh? They don't even notice how they've turned into old people. Instead, they continue to delude themselves into thinking they're happy. Don't you think that makes them the ideal subjects to rule over? And so I proposed an experiment, a miniature version of the One World Order. The committee was skeptical about you, but this they took great interest in. An experiment? My idea was that I could use Shibuya to simulate just how much the ruled classes the One World Order would be able to tolerate. Of course, it was nothing that complex. My plan was to do a new stress test on the syndrome patients. Little by little, I would cause incidents that would disrupt the peaceful lives they'd built up via the delusion synchro here in Shibuya. And then... at what level would their stress values reach the maximum? And when they did, would they create a new delusion to restore their peaceful lives? In the case of the One World Order, it would amount to the following. How much stress can the ruled classes take from the ruling classes in the form of oppression and exploitation? Conversely, what level of stress will cause them to reach their limits? And when they do reach their limits, will they rebel against the ruling classes to try and take back their happiness? Well, anyway, that was my experiment. But when I went to actually start it, I found there was nothing for me to do. The return of the new generation madness had Shibuya in an uproar. All the killings your friend carried out were quite different than what I imagined, but they were still quite effective. Huh? Miyashiro's friend did the killings? What was he talking about? Miyashiro was the killer, right? I have a feeling we are about to find out something about ourselves. I could see that Miyashiro's legs had stopped shaking. He stood tall, even in the face of that terrifying weapon. For a moment, I was entranced by the sight. The patients were excited and overjoyed to see someone in a worse state than they were, be that person a murder victim or an escaping killer. This was despite all the disturbances to their peaceful Shibuya, mind you, and there wasn't a single crack in the synchronization. And I understood why. This matched my theories of the one world order. If you wanted to keep the subject class from even having the courage to rebel, you give them an even lower class of humans as bait. If you do that, they won't even notice that they're being ruled. They'll make the lower class suffer for the fun of it, and sometimes they'll even say that what they're doing is right. They'll be satisfied, happy. And as long as they're doing that, the real ruling class is safe. Really, you have no idea how easy it is to control people. Well, anyway, I was able to show the committee some good results. But then, Wakui came towards me, a terrifying look on his face. Yeah, that can't be, that's impossible. Upset that you're a serial killer? No, I'm upset that I was Miyashiro's friend. It is really probably the worst thing to find out is that Incel was your friend. We did warm up to Miyashiro, it just took us a long time. I tried to take a step back without thinking. Miyashiro grabbed me by the arm. Huh? Stay close to me. Huh? No, let go. Just do what I say for now. No, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Miyashiro, you ruined everything. The Gigalomaniac matter, as well as my One World Order experiment. As I said before, I was blamed rather harshly for not dealing with you sooner. I never thought they'd lower my rank so much. Because of you, I might not make it to the next world, Miyashiro. When I saw the weapon in Wakui's hands, for the first time, I realized I might die. Is he going to kill me? Is he really going to kill me? Death had never really seemed real to me. I hadn't even thought about it. But now it was right in front of me. The huge blades in Wakui's hand, and the eerie light it gave off were pulling me deeper into the terror. Will you give me an answer I can be satisfied with? Why did you choose to go back to reality? You won't answer me? Then... Wakui looked at me. Hi, I'd like nothing to do with this, please. Maybe it's not too late to bring you back. The end of the blades were pointed at me. Oh no. Oh no. Leave Serika alone. They opened up like the jaws of a shark to devour me. And a white light sparked between them as they got closer. Ah! There was a loud throbbing noise in my head. My whole field of vision suddenly shifted. I put my hand to the wall to try and steady myself, but it wasn't the wall. It was the floor. I had fallen to the ground. It hurts. I held my head. The pain was so bad I couldn't sense anything else. Exactly. Leave her alone. She didn't do anything wrong that she remembers. One vision after another came flowing inside me. Oh, yep. We're gonna remember now, I think. It felt like my head was being ripped open, as if my memories were being forced to come back. What was this? Where was this? Who was this? No, I knew all the answers. What? I knew? That couldn't be true. It had to be true. I'd seen them before. No, I've never seen them before in my life. I clutched my head in my hands, confused. I curled up into a ball and moaned. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if these visions are real or not. I don't know anything. Stop it! I saw Miyashiro try to stand between me and Makui and get slammed backwards. He was smashed into the floor hard. Don't get in my way, please. You can't do anything. It's too late for regrets. If you hadn't abandoned your Gigalomaniac power, you might have been able to kill me. Miyashiro? Why? Why was he trying to save me? Oh no, are you okay? Yeah. For a moment, I couldn't speak, but I looked at him and nodded. When I saw him calling me Onoe, it felt like it overlapped with a memory that made me want to cry. What's this? Luckily was frowning at Miyashiro as he held the huge blade in his hand. She's tougher than I thought. If you had the power to do this, then why? Because it was the one thing I could do to atone for her. At some point, I'd forgotten the pain in my head. I couldn't take my eyes off Miyashiro. Together, nothing would change. Apart, both she and I would stop making mistakes. Otherwise, we'd do it again. Why not do it again? What's wrong with that? Miyashiro was crawling on the ground, but he looked up at his enemy with eyes that would never give in to anyone. A man can't spend his life clinging to the girl he loves. Aww. That's your reason? Even when Makui looked at him with a wry smile, he didn't flinch at all. There was no sign of shame. Is that reason not good enough? You people think that you're gods. Maybe you just can't understand human feelings. Why not try it then? Try it? You can kill me whenever you want, right? So why not test me? If you're right, someday I'll go back. But if I'm right, I never will. Why not try and see who's right? Miyashiro stood up slowly, without anyone's help. You really think I'll agree to that? You will. You want your rank or whatever it is back, right? You're pathetically clinging to the committee so you can survive in the next world. Then why not keep watching me? The real irregular who disappointed you. If I ever do go back to being a Gigalomaniac, I'll help you with whatever you want. You can claim all the glory. So you're going to play a game with me and bet yourself as the prize? Yeah. This whole thing was a goddamn game from the start. Of course, I've no intention of losing. I'll struggle to the last second. Miyashiro, you're a truly interesting person. Suddenly, Wakui vanished, leaving behind only the eerie light of his blade seared into our eyes. Very well. I accept your game. Let's start right now then, Miyashiro. I heard a voice from somewhere. It was like it was coming from directly within my head. And then everything went quiet. Hey, Miyashiro? Ugh. Suddenly, Kunosato was back just as quickly as she'd disappeared. It was as if she'd never left. Are you okay? Yeah, was all she said. She was biting her lip, perhaps frustrated at how much stronger her opponent was. Where's Wakui? He accepted my proposal for now. I think we should be okay for a while. But more importantly... Miyashiro pointed to the PC and Kunosato leapt at it. The image is safe, but... Damn. He got us. All the data on the committee's gone. Hey, are you okay? Yeah. All of a sudden, I couldn't get in. What happened? The sound of fingers on a keyboard echoed off the walls. Kunosato grimaced. He physically destroyed just the important hard disks. There's no way to destroy them. Damn that Wakui! Huh? Wakui was here! Miyashiro nodded. I'll tell you the details later. First, let's do what we came here for. Kunosato, you can take video with that camera, right? You're going to make your confession here? Yes. Wakui, the committee, they aren't coming back here. I want to end everything to do with Chaos Child Syndrome as fast as I can. Kunosato bit her lip once more and sighed a little. Shinjo, let's do what he says. Get some people together to carry out the brain scan device. We might be able to find some clues from it. Sure. The detective seemed a little annoyed, but he must have been used to being talked to like that because he went to the other room. Miyashiro was looking at me. I tried to tell him about all the fragments of memories I'd seen, but just as I opened my mouth, he motioned for me to stop. Onoe. What? Thanks for taking us here. Sorry for scaring you like that. It's okay now. I don't care about that. But those memories... The rest of this is our job, so... Miyashiro looked towards the exit. You can go, he seemed to say. No, that wasn't it. Go home, his eyes said. I had to ask. I had to find out for sure. But my lips wouldn't move. The words wouldn't come out. Why? Why was I... Miyashiro, let's do this. Right. Miyashiro turned his back and began to ignore me. He followed Kunosato's instructions and put a chair up against a wall. What do I say to attract the most attention? Don't ask me. You're the one who committed the murder, supposedly. Say something that sounds like a murderer. Supposedly. My headache had almost gone away when Wakui disappeared, but it started to get a little stronger. My head was throbbing with pain, and for some reason, the pain was eating into my heart. Then why not try I say something about how you hate the whole world? Sounds good. We'll go with that. The two of them had stopped paying any attention to me at all. I staggered towards the exit as if trying to escape from the headache. I turned back before I went up the stairs, but no one was looking at me. Miyashiro wasn't looking at me either. I left the basement without saying a word. Yeah, Cool Cat Press doesn't have articles for how to sound like a murderer. Technically, it probably does. They're just probably branded as, like 5 cool ways to pick up a girl that you don't know when she's out alone in the middle of the night. So, it's not my fault that I did this. It's the fault of our sick society. I could hear him speaking into the camera below. I was getting further and further away. I was staggering unsteadily, as if I was in a waking dream. But I'd succeeded in my goal. Kurisu would wake up now, and then I could ask her about me. Huh? Me? Why was I going to ask her about myself again? Everything felt so hazy, I couldn't remember. Well, it didn't matter. I should just do what Miyashiro said, and go back home. My head hurt. I probably wasn't feeling well. I needed to go home and rest. Where is my home again? Oh, right. Yokohama. Why I'd come here, what the result had been, and even how I felt right now. I didn't know any of it anymore. I was walking through town. It was probably the slowest I'd ever walked in my life. As the sun started to set on the city, I kept having trouble walking forward. But I couldn't stop. I realized that I wasn't supposed to be here, so I forced myself to keep going. For some reason, once I got away from Miyashiro, my headache stopped. It was as if his very existence was the cause of it. Oh, right. Today's... I looked at all the happy girls and remembered. February 14th. Valentine's Day. The day when girls told boys that they liked them. I I hate people like you. I hadn't really been thinking about it when I said it. It wasn't often that you told someone to their face that you didn't like them. You only realize what you really wanted to say after you've said goodbye. Was that a line from a movie? Who did I go see it with? I laughed, even though I thought it was stupid. I was happy now. I bet the old me was a nasty girl who hadn't been happy at all. But now I'd forgotten all about it. I'd forgotten all about it, and I could be happy. That's right. I was happy now. That was why I had to laugh. Hey, Serika, where are you going? I asked myself, but I didn't answer. I just kept walking. Yeah, all the girls who could tell Takaru are in a coma. I was walking in a crowd full of people. As I walked, I stopped being able to figure out how much of the world was real. All the nightmarish things that had just happened, all these people were walking without knowing anything about them. Which world was real? It had to be this one. The big TVs were playing wonderful music, and there was a delicious smell coming from the crepe stand. This was the right world, the fun world. It had to be this world. But I knew that this was a lie. But I pretended I didn't, and I kept smiling and walking. I was a liar. Someone who was honest with themselves, like maybe a child or something, might have gone back to that basement. Because this town, this place, it should be so much fun, but it felt so awful. I couldn't find the place where I belonged. But I couldn't go back to that basement. I wasn't a kid anymore. Not anymore. I was a lying grown-up. Suddenly, a scene from the nightmare came back. The fragments of memories I'd seen there. They were scattered about like the pieces of a puzzle, and they were eating away at me. And beyond them, I remembered a tiny little feeling. Do something about this, please? There was probably no way to get it back. I'd realized that no matter who I asked, it was the one thing they'd never tell me. The memories and the feeling kept spinning about inside me. I wanted to go back there, but I couldn't. I kept walking with nowhere to go. And eventually, I found myself in front of a building near the station. It had been 30 minutes since the sun set. What was the name of this place again? Hikario? I looked up at a tall building. I couldn't tell how many floors it was. I couldn't remember ever coming here. But my body went inside without hesitation. I stepped out of the elevator and saw a pretty theater. I could see a poster for a musical on the wall. There was a picture on it that I'd seen somewhere before. The soiree was just about to start. Soiree is theater lingo that refers to a performance held in the evening. A daytime performance is a matinee. I stood in line to buy a ticket. Luckily, there was a seat open near the front of the house. I bought my ticket and buried myself in the waves of people going into the theater. This place is... What? Something was strange. I thought I'd never been here before, but it was familiar. I'd come here before. I walked up the stairs through the crowd and opened the door to the theater. Huh? And when I stepped inside, I heard a sound like something bursting within me. Something snapped within my head. I walked towards my seat. I slowly weaved my way through the other audience members, going down the steps of the corridor. The curtain was lowered, and on it there was a projection with the name of the musical and an illustration on it. But what I was seeing was an empty theater. An empty stage lit up by bright lights. Huh? I sat in my seat, and after a while the buzzer rang and the curtain came up. The orchestra played a low sound that echoed into the pit of my stomach, and the cast came up on stage. But my mind was still seeing the same thing. It was still looking at an empty stage. Is this where I. On stage, the actors started to pantomime rowing a boat. They were creating a delusional world on the stage, filled with things that didn't exist. But I was seeing a different world. It was the world I'd lived in before. The musical kept going, but the empty stage that only I saw didn't change. My memories ached. My feelings threatened to overflow. I'd done something here. With someone. The sadness from when I'd talked with them was filling my heart. The pain in my throat when I screamed at them was coming back to me. It hurt to breathe. I was gasping like I was underwater. The actors sang, their voices riding on the powerful music. It was a song the heroes sang to inspire themselves and the people before they went off to fight the revolution. The people of this fictional world all lined up and yelled. Come along and join us, they sang. And then it happened. Huh? I saw someone on the empty stage. They were holding something high in their hands. I could see that it was a sword, gleaming with a dull shine. It was a tool for battle. Because it was the one thing I could do to atone for her. Together, nothing would change. Apart, well, she and I would stop making mistakes. A man can't spend his life clinging to the girl he loves. Huh? I was crying. It was the same tears I felt on my cheek when I woke up in the morning. I quickly wiped them away with the back of my hand. But they didn't stop. I kept wiping them away, and they didn't stop coming. Huh? Huh? It was no good. They wouldn't stop. I couldn't stop them. I buried my face in my hands. I don't have any regrets. I don't regret what I did. I'm satisfied. You scum! Keep going. Who was always Because if Serika never goes back, but we don't know if Serika ever goes back. We don't even know what she's remembered. Is this one of those, like, it's up to your interpretation? Because, like, I'm just trying to think about where everyone ended. Like, we don't know what Serika actually remembered, so who knows what she's doing, because she's apparently not going home. She's just living in Shibuya now. Going to plays or whatever. Takeru is still a murderer, according to the public. And we don't know what happened to the 4 girls, so yeah, it's up to our interpretation, but what are we interpreting? Interpreting. I can read. Yeah, like, okay. I feel like that final route left us with more questions than answers. It's really interesting because, like, I remember playing Steins Gate and thinking that, like, they wrapped it all up in a very nice, neat little bow, just based on how the narrative had to be structured. And this one, I'm just sitting here going, what the fuck just happened? To be fair, they do seem to, like, reference other characters in the series, so I guess some of these characters could come back, but just didn't mention. But yeah, what the fuck just happened? It's not... I like to think I'm not stupid, but occasionally I play a game and it's like, what the... I don't know that I understood that ending. Exactly, like, what do we do with all the characters we have? None of them got anything! Who knows, maybe there's a scene wrapping everything up after the credits. We'll find out, maybe. Soon, I assume, because names have stopped scrolling, but... maybe not. There we go. Unlocked secret episode, Ito route. Ito deserved so much better during this game. Okay, October 2016. 8 months later. So we are going to maybe get a wrap up.
The next examination will be at the same time next week. Take care. All right. Thank you.
As she bowed to the nurse, who she'd come to know quite well, Senni Minamisawa, the girl who was once Nono Kurisu, checked the time. It was almost noon. The exams were getting shorter and shorter. They hadn't even given her any drugs today. That probably meant she was getting better.
Oh, sister.
Uki Yamazoe, whose exam had evidently been as short as hers, came down from the psych ward on the 5th floor. When she saw Senni, she ran over.
Are you done for the day too? Hey, no running in the hospital. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Senni felt herself smile as she watched her little sister walk fast, but not run, towards the front desk. I'm kind of wondering, like, for each of the different routes that we took, and, like, all of it. So, like, Takeru and everything that happened followed Takaru's route, so the first route basically. But then I wonder if all of the side routes were kind of each of their realities locked in their heads. So like Nono is going to follow Nono's route, or Senni is going to follow Nono's route. Uki is going to follow her own route, etc., etc. And so they're still going to get kind of that development and memory. Maybe, I don't know. Because like I feel like it would be really weird for like Nono to remember the main route because she dies part of the way through, right? So I don't know. We'll find out. Her little sister had struggled with her physical therapy, but now she could walk and run like a normal girl. She wanted to be a nurse, just like Senni. It would be the perfect job for her.
Okay, let's go. We got out earlier than expected, so why don't we invite everyone to lunch? I'm sure they'll come. Yeah. Oh.
Uki suddenly seemed to remember something and stopped.
Did you forget something? No,
Uki was choosing her words carefully as she looked at the elevator that had just come down.
Are you sure, sister? Yeah.
Senni put her hand on her little sister's head.
We said goodbye, right? That's good enough. And the security's really tight recently. Nobody can get in. But... So it's fine, Uki. Don't be like that, okay?
Her little sister nodded a second later and Senni smiled. Yeah, I would assume that none of us have any powers anymore because we've all been, or at least these two have been cured. It looks like we've all been cured.
Glad to see you survived your checkup. Thanks.
And Hana can talk now! When she contacted them on her phone, she found that Hinaya Arimura and Hana Kazuki had both been waiting for her call all morning. They met in front of Shibuya Station and started walking. It had been a long time since the four of them had gone through the city together like this. They saw each other often at the hospital, but their exams and physical therapy were all at different times, which made it hard to schedule anything. But today was a special day. Even if they didn't say anything, they all knew they were going to meet.
What's you doing today? You went to the library with his friends. Whoa! He's going to the library on his day off? There's a scary thought. Yu's all excited to be a lawyer when he grows up. Wow, a lawyer? For a kid's dream, that's pretty... Oh, so that's it,
Hinaya almost said. But she stopped herself. Is he becoming a lawyer because of Takaru? To free Takaru? Hana has excellent girl in her clothes because Hana is an excellent girl. I don't know what to tell you, man. Both Hana and Hinaya immediately understood the meaning of Yuto Tachibana's childlike dream, as well as the fact that it might even come true. And Yuto knew what day it was, too. That had to have been why he went to the library with his friends, just like the four of them had gathered together. An indescribable sadness was threatening to build up between them. Oh, whoops! Best girl and excellent girl. See? Like, we got this. It was Arimura's loud voice that broke the silence.
Everybody, if we don't hurry, all the restaurants are going to be full. That's right. Where should we eat? I'm super hungry, so I suggest the usual cafe. What do you think, guys? I'm okay with that. Me too. That's fine. All right, let's go there then. Okay, follow me.
Hinaya raised one hand up like a tour guide and wrapped the other around Hana's. The two of them had been hanging out together a lot recently. I don't know why that's in parentheses. Are they dating? Like, give me this. If we can't date them, then, like, I think they need to be together. Anyways, then she plunged into the crowd. There were no Chaos Child Syndrome patients to be seen. 8 months ago, over 80% of the Chaos Child Syndrome patients in Shibuya all fell unconscious at once. Exactly, good for them. They were all quickly split up and taken to nearby hospitals. The hospitals were overflowing with patients. It was almost like the earthquake 6 years ago. No, 7 years now. Even those patients who had escaped the initial wave quickly fell unconscious as well, and were also taken to hospitals. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. Several people were injured when they'd fallen, but none of them that badly. And several days later, the patients began to wake up, almost all of them in a state of extreme panic. They couldn't believe their real forms. Sydney, Hinaya, and the others woke up at the same time and were terribly confused. But they didn't panic like the others. They quickly realized that he was involved and that he'd done this for everyone's sake. And so, while the patients returned to a normal but harsh reality.
Minami-sawa, don't get out of line. We'll leave you behind. Oh, right.
Suddenly realized that she'd stopped walking as she reflected on the past. She ran to catch up with the others. What had happened when she was asleep? Right after she'd woken up, Takeru had told her himself. Kunosato and Shinjo had let her meet him in a special hospital room. He also told her about Serika's true nature and the truth behind the return of the new generation madness. Wakui, the committee, and Chaos Child Syndrome too. He told her about everything. And lastly, he told her the truth about Sakuma, the father she'd believe in. So she did finally find out. Because she never knew, and it was bugging the shit out of me. And there was something that she, Senni Minamisawa, or Nonokurisu depending, had to tell him too. Now that she didn't look like Nonokurisu anymore, there was no way she could keep up the lie. She'd had trouble working up the courage before she went into Takuru's room. She'd hesitated so many times, and almost thought about not meeting him at all. But it was the other girls from her room that had scolded her and urged her on. She'd been the last to wake up because of the wound in her chest, and by the time she did, Uki, Hinaya, and Hana had already seen the real her. And everyone had forgiven her without saying a word. But when she'd hesitated about meeting Takeru, they'd gotten really mad. "Can't you trust him?" they asked. "Is he the kind of guy who wouldn't forgive you?" And that was enough for her to decide. After she'd told him everything, Takeru had laughed gently. "You're so silly. You should have told me sooner." Every time she remembered his voice then, she felt like she would cry. Senni gave up her old name and body and went back to being herself. She'd been forced into 6 months of physical therapy, not just because of the syndrome, but the stab wound as well. But, at last, she was capable of going outside on her own. She'd gone back to Hekiho Academy, which was now just a normal private school, and started living the life of a normal student along with the others.
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, what is it? How was the exam? The same as ever, but they didn't give me any medicine. I think I'm about done with doctors. What about you, Kazuki? Me too, maybe.
Kazuki looked up at the sky as she spoke. She'd been lying to everyone too. And just like Senni, she'd been reluctant to admit it, and Hinaya had scolded her too. When she opened up to Takeru about her lie, he forgave her like nothing was wrong at all. Even after losing her power, Hana still didn't talk a lot, but she was trying her best. That was her promise to Takeru, she thought. You should let more people hear your voice. I bet you'd make more friends. Shibuya was filled with people enjoying their day off. As Senni and the others were living the same lives as everyone else. Except for one person. The boy who had been at their center. They'd only brought it up during a small silence, after they'd eaten lunch at the usual cafe. At first, no one wanted to discuss it. But about the same time Senni had gotten tired of watching the ice melt in her iced tea, Hinaya opened her mouth to speak.
Did you see?
She pointed to the phone in her hand. It was displaying a gossip site.
Yeah.
The article was about Takeru. It said that Takeru Miyashiro, the boy responsible for the serial killing in Shibuya, had been kept at AH Tokyo General Hospital to aid in research on Chaos Child Syndrome. And now that the research was mostly finished, he was finally being sent to a detention house for the real interrogations to begin. Even if he was a minor, in light of the effect his crimes had on society, the article said, there was no chance he'd ever be getting out. It said all that in sensational and exaggerated tones. Where does the media find this stuff? Most of what the article said was right. And Shinjo had told them that the day Takeru would be transferred was today. They were able to say goodbye a while before. Shinjo had set it up. Really, right up until the very end, The last time they'd met, Takeru had asked them for a favor. It involved Serika Onoe. Stay away from her, unless she comes to you. If she does come to you, forgive her and treat her like a normal friend. And never tell her about me or her past. He'd insisted on these 3 things until the very end. But Sirika hadn't come to them at all. Kunosato had told them that she lived in Yokohama and was attending Hekiho from there, but they hadn't heard anything else. Yeah, pretty much. You only get so much rope on that kind of stuff, so.
What are they doing now? What are they doing, you think? I don't know.
No one was sure if Uki's question was about Takuru or Serika or maybe both of them.
Let's get going.
When she stood up to go, Senni realized something. Oh, that's right. Maybe she was asking about us. What are we doing right now? Takuru had a spot in the cafe where he always sat. Senni found herself looking at it and almost cried again. The 4 of them left the cafe and slowly headed for the station. They planned to split up and go home from there. None of them were looking at their phones, but their heads were all bent lower than normal. But no one noticed. Just before the light turned green, Senni realized that they were completely buried in the people surrounding them. Her mouth opened on its own.
Wanna go see a movie? Huh?
Yeah. Does psychic powers count as neurodivergence? The other 3 looked up in surprise. Their mouths fell in shock. They seemed to have been caught completely off guard.
It's too early to just go home.
She was right. The sun hadn't even begun to set.
Huh?
Hinaya suddenly started to tear at her hair.
Dang it! I was going to try and keep everyone from getting down today.
Her twin tails spun angrily.
You were thinking about that. Why would I hold your hand otherwise?
You're not my boyfriend. Boo! That's because she's your girlfriend.
You hold my hand all the time lately. I don't know what you're talking about. Right. So you'll come with me to the movie, right? Sure thing.
Hinaya clapped her hands together and then spread her arms as if to give Senni a hug.
What about you, Uki? You're free after this, right? Huh? Yeah? But
Uki made the same face she'd made at the hospital. Yeah, you're not my husband. You're not my boyfriend. You're my spouse.
Let's go back to the hospital after all, she seemed to say. It's almost time, isn't it?
Senni knew Uki was worried about her, and that's when she smiled back silently.
Thanks. But if we're going somewhere, let's go see a movie, okay?
Because if she did meet Takuru, she would grab onto him and break down in tears. She didn't think she had it in her to control herself, and she didn't want to let her little brother see her like that. She was never going to let him worry about her again. So,
let's pick a fun movie. I want to write him a letter and say we saw a fun movie. Oh, I'll write one too. I'll write letters every day. Every day? I guess I'll have to do the same thing. Wow, you 2 are really in love with your brother, huh?
Hinaya tried to tease them, but they both looked back at her and spoke in unison, Senni mischievously and Uki extremely seriously.
Is that wrong? I'm very proud of my younger brother. I'm very proud of my older brother. Whoa.
Hinaya staggered back in exaggerated astonishment, and Senni gave her a pat to move her along. Come on, hurry. I'll leave you behind. Senni went to the front and started to walk. Unlike a moment ago, she was standing tall, ready to face whatever fate had in store for her. Uki went after her, her footsteps steady and as firm as well. The remaining 2 looked at each other for a moment. Yeah, wow, I was joking about the incest. And then they started to laugh and ran to catch up to the sisters.
Hey, wait! Senni, Uki. I can recommend a movie. The movies you recommend are always so stupid, though. Huh?
Don't be mean to your girlfriend. Huh? That's strange. There was supposed to be data in here.
Hey, I've told you again and again not to touch that.
The door opened and an angry Kunosato came inside. I I'm sorry.
Their test results were clean, just like always. There's no fear of a relapse for now.
I gave a small sigh of relief when I heard that. Good. The treatment seemed to be working well. So, how long are Nono, Senni, and the others going to keep getting treatment?
You're about to be taken away and you're still worrying about other people? Well, whatever. I guess that's just who you are.
Kunosato sighed in resignation.
All I'm doing now is checking their chromosomes for any abnormalities. Well, it's basically like a physical. If nothing else, I'm going to keep it up until we can completely determine the cause of the aging process. Right now it's once a week, but I'm planning on cutting it back gradually.
When can you start cutting it back?
I don't know.
Kunosato said. From the way she was talking, she wasn't lying. She really didn't know. My role in researching and curing Chaos Child Syndrome had mostly come to an end after I created that image. All that was left was for Kunosato and the regular scientist helping her to figure out the scientific cause. But they seemed to be having a hard time figuring out what caused the artificial aging process. As for what they now knew, there were structures called telomeres at the end of a chromosome, which were related to the aging process in some way. A telomere is a repeated set of base pairs at the end of a chromosome. Since it has been confirmed that they get shorter with each cell division, and telomere shortening has been seen in patients suffering from accelerated aging disorders, it's believed that they're deeply connected with cellular aging, and thus with the aging of the entire body. There were signs that Chaos Child Syndrome patients were artificially creating them inside their bodies. These false telomeres shortened at a greatly accelerated rate that drastically restricted the number of times a cell could divide. The hypothesis was that the brain reorganized these artificial telomeres as real and initiated the aging process. But much of that was still in the realm of hypothesis, and Kunosato herself didn't seem satisfied with the explanation at all. But whatever the underlying principle was, when I asked her what had happened, she shrugged and said this.
It's probably because the mind and body mistakenly think that living in a delusion means being reborn into a new person.
So that's it. It's not just the mind that's mistaken, it's the body as well. The phenomenon where these mistakes or errors would occur along the chromosome had been known in the medical world for a long time. That's right, it was the same mechanism as cancer. In other words, former Chaos Child Syndrome patients were at a high risk of developing that disease. Sidney and the others would probably keep getting exams to look for those errors in their cells, all without knowing why. And according to Kunosato, she had no idea when those exams might end. They might go on forever.
Actually, there's something very interesting regarding you, too.
Hmm? Kunosato stared at me as if trying to peer into the bottom of my heart.
From now on, for a very long time, you're going to lose access to the internet. Probably for the first time in your life. Am I right?
Yeah, come to think of it, she was right. Yeah, cancer, the worst superpower ever. The internet had already existed when I was born, and by the time I hit puberty, it was everywhere.
You put so much emphasis on being on the right side of the information divide, and for the first time, you're going to have restricted access to information. When that life becomes natural to you, how are your thought process, how are your thought patterns going to change, I wonder?
A while ago, I might have panicked just thinking about it, but strangely, I didn't feel like it now.
It'll be interesting to see how you change as you go from a roaring storm of information to drifting in a quiet, empty sea.
I promised you this. Feel free to use me as an experiment.
Yeah, you're right.
Ito's getting better, not just from the syndrome, but from the brain damage too. Thanks for your help.
I was only able to save him medically. I can't make any guarantees about the legal side.
Shinjo had told me that Ito would be prosecuted, but in the end, he'd probably be given treatment at a medical facility for minors. I didn't know how long it would take, but I was relieved to know that he'd eventually go free. Remembering Yui made my heart ache, but it wasn't his fault. What are you going to do now, Kunosato? I remembered something I wanted to ask before I left this place. Kunosato's eyebrows rose in surprise. Are you going to continue your revenge against the committee?
Of course. I'm going to keep dancing, just like Wakui said.
And then? I saw a little smile form around her mouth.
That's right. You and I may end up keeping in touch.
Wakui said he was going to continue to observe you, didn't he? That's right. He's going to see whether or not you give in to despair and terror at what's about to happen to you, and regain your powers as a Gigalomaniac. That's your game with him. Yes. Then you're going to be kept alive, and I'll keep watching you so I can find him when he slips up. Can I come in? There was a knock at the door, and I heard a voice I knew well. Shinjo came in with a serious look on his face. He was looking at me, seemingly uncertain as to what to say. I waited, motionless, until finally he sighed. Shinjo said the words, "It's time." All right. I slowly stood up from the chair. Shinjo knew the truth, but still accepted my decision. I could do nothing but be grateful for that. I knew how hard that had to be for a detective. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry for all the trouble. I bowed deeply. No, it's nothing compared to what you went through. He put his hand on my shoulder. It was big and strong. If I had an older brother, would he have been like this? I'm the one who should thank you. There was another detective on the other side of the door, ready to take me to the transport. The rest of the world still didn't really know what I looked like after I had recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome. It was Shinjo who had convinced the others that I'd stand out less if they didn't put handcuffs on me and try to hide my face. Thanks to that, I'd be able to walk outside like a normal high school kid one last time. I bowed one last time to Shinjo, then turned to Kunosato. Take care of everyone for me. Yeah, see you around. Kunosato nodded weakly, and I nodded back. And then I headed for the exit. Oh, Miyashiro. I stopped and turned around. There's something I forgot to ask. It's not terribly important, though. Hmm? Her name and age. Why Serika Onoe? Was there some reason for her age? It was actually something I'd been thinking about for a long time after we were first apart. It was the first step of a very big mistake. When I'd finally found the answer, I'd burst out laughing. Her name was an anagram of my parents' names. Huh? Saneo Miyashiro, Eriko Miyashiro. The things you were supposed to look for in a parent, I saw it in her. I think that's where I got the name. But if you wanted her to play the role of a parent, shouldn't have you made her older than you? I think I didn't want to admit that I wanted a parent, so she couldn't be older than me. She had to be a girl who's younger than me so I could protect her. It was stupid pride, even for a kid. Thinking back, I was really a fool. I see. If I wasn't mistaken, I caught a glimpse of gentleness in her expression. But you did protect her. You're not a fool anymore. Yeah, the incest rabbit hole goes deep in this family. I smiled back at her and turned away. I made my stride a little longer than usual so my resolve wouldn't waver. And then I stepped out the door. It had been forever since I'd been outside, and the weather was beautiful. I was so used to the darkness that the strong sunlight stung my eyes. The wind was a little cold, but it felt good. It swirled by as if purifying my whole body. I was surprised not to see any reporters or gawkers, but I'd learned later that Kei, aka Kunosato, had given the media and internet false information. I walked a while until I saw a black car stopped on the side of the road. It was probably the transport car. Huh? I felt a sense of deja vu and stopped to look around. And then I remembered. That's right. This was a corner of AH Tokyo General Hospital. 6 years ago, during the earthquake, it had been an evacuation shelter. The detective saw that I stopped and asked me what was wrong. But there were too many feelings inside me to explain. That's right. This is where I created her. Huh? I stood there in silent shock. Nearby, in the bright sunlight, just a few seconds away if I were to run. Oh, she came. She was standing there. The girl I thought for sure I'd never meet again. She was looking at me as if uncertain whether to smile, cry, or get mad. There was a girl next to her that I didn't know, about the same age. Why? What was she doing here? I couldn't look away. I couldn't move. We were so close, but we were staring at each other across a distance that could never be crossed. The detective told me to start walking. I couldn't answer. I realized that my fists were clenched.
Serika? Huh? What?
I heard a pretty voice. The soft wind seemed to be carrying it to me.
What's wrong? Who's that? Someone you know?
I didn't know what feelings were being exchanged between us, but I could see tears forming in her eyes.
No, I don't know him.
And the tears fell without a sound. She was smiling. The girl next to her must have been her best friend. She wiped away her tears and smiled so that her friend wouldn't see them. And then she turned around and walked away from me. This is so depressing. I hate this. Time started to move again, and a smile formed on my face as well. Yeah, I don't know you either. The sun stung my eyes. I looked up at the sky so that the sudden tears wouldn't fall to the ground. I was crying tears of joy. That's what I believed. That's what I had to believe. Everything was for the best. I'm sorry. Let's go, I said to the detective. Then I started to walk. I didn't look at her as she got further away. We would never see each other again, and the paths we walked would never cross. That was how we would live our lives together. And that is the end. Well, that was devastating. But we finished it. That was the Silent Sky end. All right. So next stream, as we just rack up all these trophies, next stream is Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. I could not remember what day it was. Ito we never see again, I'm guessing. Ito got out of the picture as soon as the whole Yui thing happened, and I'm still sad for him. Once again, justice for Ito. He deserved so much better. Yeah, let me know what game you want to play next, because we've now finished this one. So if there's a science adventure game that you want to do, let me know which one. If you want to do something different, obviously, just let me know. And that's all I got. Have a good night, all. Thanks for hanging out, and see you on Sunday. Bye.